Who is Charles Darwin? Charles Darwin was a British naturalist and biologist who is best known for his theory of evolution by natural selection. He was born in 1809 in Shrewsbury, England, and grew up with a strong interest in nature and science. In 1831, he embarked on a 5-year voyage on the HMS Beagle, during which he collected and studied specimens from around the world and began to develop his ideas about evolution. After returning to England, Darwin spent many years gathering evidence and refining his theory of evolution by natural selection, which he published in his book On the Origin of Species in 1859. This theory proposed that all species of living things have descended over time from common ancestors, and that the process of natural selection, whereby organisms with advantageous traits are more likely to survive and reproduce, is the primary mechanism driving evolutionary change. Darwin's work on evolution revolutionized scientific thinking about the origins of life and had a profound impact on fields ranging from biology to anthropology to philosophy. Today, he is widely regarded as one of the most important figures in the history of science. Some text goes here. What inspired Darwin to develop his theory of evolution by natural selection? Some text goes here. Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection was influenced by several factors, including his observations and experiences during his travels on the HMS Beagle, as well as the work of other scientists and thinkers of his time. During his voyage on the Beagle, Darwin collected and studied a wide variety of plants and animals from different parts of the world. He was struck by the diversity of life he encountered, as well as the many adaptations and variations he observed within species. For example, he noticed that different species of finches in the Galapagos Islands had distinct beak shapes and sizes that were well suited to the types of food available in their respective environments. These observations led Darwin to question the idea that species were fixed and unchanging, and to wonder about the processes that could account for the variations he observed. Additionally, Darwin was influenced by the work of other scientists and thinkers of his time, such as the geologist Charles Lyell, whose ideas about the slow, gradual processes that shape the Earth's surface inspired Darwin to consider similar processes of change in the natural world. Darwin was also familiar with the ideas of Thomas Malthus, an economist who argued that populations tend to grow faster than the resources available to support them, leading to competition and the survival of the fittest. All of these influences helped shape Darwin's thinking about the processes that drive evolutionary change, and led him to develop his theory of evolution by natural selection. How did Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection differ from previous ideas about the origin of species? Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection was a significant departure from previous ideas about the origin of species, which tended to be based on religious or philosophical beliefs rather than empirical evidence. Before Darwin, many people believed in the idea of fixity of species, which held that species were created by God in their present form and could not change over time. Others proposed alternative ideas about the origin of species, such as the idea of spontaneous generation, the idea that life could arise from non-living matter, or the idea of transmutation, which held that species could change, but only in limited and predetermined ways. Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection, in contrast, proposed that species were not fixed or predetermined, but rather were constantly changing and evolving in response to their environment. His theory suggested that all species of living things shared a common ancestry, and that the diversity of life we see today was the result of a gradual process of descent with modification over millions of years. One of the key differences between Darwin's theory and previous ideas was the emphasis on natural selection as the primary mechanism of evolutionary change. Darwin proposed that organisms with advantageous traits were more likely to survive and reproduce, passing those traits on to their offspring and gradually changing the characteristics of the species over time. This idea challenged the notion of fixed species and provided a naturalistic explanation for the diversity of life. Overall, Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection was a major paradigm shift in our understanding of the origin and diversity of life, and laid the foundation for modern evolutionary biology. Some text goes here. How did Darwin's travels on the HMS Beagle influence his thinking about evolution? Some text goes here. Darwin's travels on the HMS Beagle were a formative experience that greatly influenced his thinking about evolution. During the 5-year voyage, Darwin collected and studied specimens from around the world, including plants, animals, and fossils. He also spent time with local people and learned about their customs and beliefs. One of the key experiences that shaped Darwin's thinking about evolution was his visit to the Galapagos Islands, where he observed a variety of unique and distinct species that seemed to be closely related to each other. For example, he noticed that different species of finches on the islands had different beak shapes that were well suited to the types of food available in their respective environments. This led Darwin to wonder about the processes that could account for the variations he observed, and to begin formulating his ideas about natural selection as a mechanism of evolutionary change. In addition to his observations of living organisms, Darwin was also influenced by the fossils he collected during the voyage, which provided evidence of extinct species that were different from any living organisms he had seen. He recognized that the fossil record suggested a history of gradual change over time, rather than sudden creation events as proposed by religious beliefs of his time. Overall, Darwin's travels on the HMS Beagle provided him with a wealth of information and experiences that helped shape his ideas about evolution. He drew on his observations of the natural world, the diversity of life, and the patterns of change over time to develop his theory of evolution by natural selection, which revolutionized scientific thinking about the origins of life. Some text goes here. How did Darwin's relationship with Alfred Russel Wallace impact his scientific work? Some text goes here. Darwin's relationship with Alfred Russel Wallace was a significant event in the history of evolutionary biology, and had a profound impact on Darwin's scientific work. Wallace was a young naturalist who had been collecting specimens in the Malay archipelago, and had independently arrived at a similar theory of evolution by natural selection to Darwin's. In 1858, Wallace sent Darwin a letter outlining his ideas, which included many of the same concepts as Darwin's theory, but in a somewhat different form. This unexpected letter spurred Darwin into action, and he quickly wrote up a joint paper with Wallace that presented their theories of evolution by natural selection. This paper was read to the Linnean Society in London in 1858, and helped establish the validity of the theory of evolution. The joint paper with Wallace had a profound impact on Darwin's scientific work, both in terms of its reception by the scientific community and in terms of its impact on Darwin's own thinking. Prior to this, Darwin had been hesitant to publish his ideas about evolution, in part due to concerns about their reception by the public and the scientific establishment. The joint paper with Wallace provided some much-needed validation and support for Darwin's ideas, and gave him the confidence to publish his own book, On the Origin of Species, the following year. In addition, Darwin was struck by the similarities between his and Wallace's ideas, and began to recognize the importance of natural selection as the primary mechanism driving evolution. This helped him refine and strengthen his own theory, and contributed to the development of a modern understanding of evolutionary biology. Overall, Darwin's relationship with Alfred Russel Wallace was a crucial event in the history of evolutionary biology, and helped establish the validity and importance of the theory of evolution by natural selection. How did Darwin's theory of evolution impact scientific and religious thinking in his time? Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection had a profound impact on both scientific and religious thinking in his time, and continues to shape our understanding of the natural world today. Scientifically, Darwin's theory provided a naturalistic explanation for the origin and diversity of life, and revolutionized our understanding of biology, geology, and anthropology. It challenged the prevailing view that species were fixed and unchanging, and instead proposed that all living things shared a common ancestry and were subject to a process of gradual change over time. This theory was supported by a wealth of evidence from comparative anatomy, biogeography, embryology, and the fossil record, and has since become one of the most well-established and influential scientific theories in history. Religiously, however, Darwin's theory was more controversial. Many religious leaders and believers saw the theory as incompatible with their faith, as it challenged the idea of a literal interpretation of the Bible and the concept of divine creation. Some saw evolution as an attack on the idea of human exceptionalism, and a threat to traditional moral and social values. Others sought to reconcile evolution with their religious beliefs, either by interpreting the Bible in a more metaphorical or symbolic way, or by proposing alternative theories, such as theistic evolution or intelligent design. Despite the controversy, Darwin's theory of evolution had a significant impact on both scientific and religious thinking in his time, and continues to shape our understanding of the natural world today. It has provided a framework for understanding the diversity and complexity of life, and has inspired countless research projects and discoveries in biology, genetics, ecology, and other fields. What evidence did Darwin use to support his theory of evolution? Darwin used a variety of evidence to support his theory of evolution by natural selection, which he presented in his book On the Origin of Species and other writings. Some of the key types of evidence he relied on include: 1. Comparative anatomy. Darwin observed that many different species of organisms had similar structures, such as the forelimbs of vertebrates, which suggested a common ancestry and a process of descent with modification over time. 2. Biogeography. Darwin noticed that similar environments in different parts of the world often had distinct and different sets of species, which suggested that species had evolved in response to their local environments and had not been created in their present form. 3. Fossil record. Darwin saw evidence in the fossil record that ancient organisms were often very different from modern organisms, and that there were transitional forms that showed a gradual process of change over time. 4. Artificial selection. Darwin observed that humans could selectively breed plants and animals to create desired traits, such as different breeds of dogs or crops. He saw this as an analog to natural selection, whereby organisms with advantageous traits were more likely to survive and reproduce. 5. Geology. Darwin was influenced by the work of geologists who showed that the Earth was much older than previously believed, and that the processes of erosion and sedimentation occurred very slowly over long periods of time. This allowed for the possibility of a gradual process of evolution over millions of years. Overall, Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection was supported by a wide range of evidence from many different fields of study, and has since become one of the most well-established and influential scientific theories in history. How did Darwin's work on plant and animal domestication influence the development of genetics? Darwin's work on plant and animal domestication was a significant contribution to the development of genetics, which was still in its early stages during his lifetime. One of the key insights that Darwin had was that domesticated plants and animals had undergone changes in their characteristics that were similar to the changes that occurred in wild plants and animals over time. He recognized that artificial selection by humans, through selective breeding and controlled matings, could create new varieties of plants and animals with desirable traits. This led Darwin to propose that natural selection, acting over long periods of time, could similarly produce new varieties and eventually new species. His ideas on evolution by natural selection provided a framework for understanding the changes Darwin's theory of sexual selection helped to explain a wide range of animal behaviors that were previously difficult to understand from an adaptive perspective, such as the elaborate plumage and courtship displays of many bird species. It also helped explain the phenomenon of sexual dimorphism, or differences in physical characteristics between males and females of the same species. Subsequent research in animal behavior has confirmed many of Darwin's ideas about sexual selection, and has expanded our understanding of the ways in which mate competition and selection can shape the evolution of animal behavior. Today, sexual selection is recognized as a major driving force in the evolution of traits such as aggression, cooperation, communication, and cognition in animals, and continues to be an active area of research in evolutionary biology and behavioral ecology. What challenges did Darwin face in developing and promoting his theory of evolution? Darwin faced several significant challenges in developing and promoting his theory of evolution, which was controversial and challenged many deeply held beliefs of his time. 1. Scientific skepticism. In the mid-19th century, the idea of evolution was not widely accepted among scientists, and many were skeptical of Darwin's theory of natural selection. Some criticized the lack of direct evidence for natural selection, while others questioned the age of the Earth and the ability of natural selection to produce major evolutionary changes. 2. Religious opposition. Darwin's theory was also opposed by many religious leaders and believers, who saw it as a challenge to their faith and a threat to traditional moral and social values. Some saw evolution as an attack on the idea of human exceptionalism, while others argued that it undermined the idea of divine creation and the authority of the Bible. 3. Social and political opposition. Darwin's theory was also opposed by many people who saw it as a threat to the social and political status quo. Some believed that the idea of natural selection could be used to justify racism, imperialism, and other forms of exploitation and oppression. 4. Personal health and family challenges. Darwin suffered from poor health throughout his life, which limited his ability to work and publish his ideas. He also faced personal tragedy, including the death of several children, which took a toll on his emotional well-being and ability to work. Despite these challenges, Darwin continued to refine and promote his theory of evolution throughout his life, and it has since become one of the most well-established and influential scientific theories in history. Today, evolution by natural selection is widely accepted among scientists and the general public, and continues to inspire research and discovery in fields ranging from genetics to ecology to anthropology. What impact has Darwin's theory of evolution had on modern biology and scientific thinking? Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection has had a profound impact on modern biology and scientific thinking, and continues to shape our understanding of the natural world today. 1. Unifying theory of biology. Darwin's theory provided a naturalistic explanation for the origin and diversity of life, and helped to unify many different fields of study, including biology, genetics, ecology, and anthropology. It laid the foundation for a wide range of research projects and discoveries, and provided a framework for understanding the complex interactions between organisms and their environments. 2. Evidence-based thinking. Darwin's theory emphasized the importance of empirical evidence and observation in scientific thinking, and challenged the prevailing view that scientific knowledge could be obtained through pure reason or revelation. It encouraged scientists to seek out new evidence and test their ideas through experimentation and observation, and helped to establish a more rigorous and evidence-based approach to scientific inquiry. 3. Naturalistic explanation for life. Darwin's theory also challenged religious and philosophical views that had dominated Western thinking for centuries, and provided a naturalistic explanation for the diversity and complexity of life. It helped to establish the idea that the natural world could be understood through observation and experimentation, rather than through religious or mystical beliefs. 4. Ethical and social implications. Darwin's theory also had ethical and social implications, challenging traditional views about human exceptionalism and the relationship between humans and other species. It has inspired debates and discussions about the ethical treatment of animals, the conservation of biodiversity, and the social and political implications of scientific discoveries. Overall, Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection has had a profound impact on modern biology and scientific thinking, and continues to inspire research and discovery in a wide range of fields. It has helped to establish a more evidence-based and naturalistic approach to scientific inquiry, and has challenged traditional views about the origins and diversity of life. Some text goes here. What is the current scientific consensus on Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection, and how has this consensus evolved over time? Some text goes here. The current scientific consensus on Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection is that it is one of the most well-established and influential scientific theories in history, supported by a vast amount of evidence from many different fields of study. Over time, the consensus around Darwin's theory has evolved as new evidence has emerged and as scientific knowledge has advanced. In the early years after the publication of On the Origin of Species, Darwin's theory was controversial and met with skepticism from many scientists, who criticized the lack of direct evidence for natural selection and questioned the ability of natural selection to produce major evolutionary changes. However, over time, the scientific community has come to accept and embrace Darwin's theory, as new evidence has supported its key principles and as it has been refined and expanded upon by subsequent generations of scientists. Today, evolution by natural selection is widely accepted among scientists and the general public, and is recognized as one of the most fundamental and influential theories in all of science. One of the key factors that has contributed to the widespread acceptance of Darwin's theory is the vast amount of evidence that supports it. This evidence comes from many different fields of study, including comparative anatomy, biogeography, embryology, genetics, and the fossil record, and has helped to establish the validity and importance of the theory of evolution. In addition, scientists have continued to refine and expand upon Darwin's theory over time, incorporating new insights and discoveries from fields such as molecular biology, genomics, and ecology. This ongoing work has helped to deepen our understanding of the processes that drive evolution, and has allowed us to make more precise and accurate predictions about the evolutionary histories of different species. Overall, the current scientific consensus on Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection is that it is a well-established and fundamental theory that provides a naturalistic explanation for the diversity and complexity of life on Earth, and continues to inspire research and discovery in many different fields of study. How did Darwin's theory of evolution impact our understanding of human evolution, and what insights has it provided into the origins of our species? Darwin's theory of evolution had a profound impact on our understanding of human evolution, and has provided important insights into the origins of our species. One of the key insights that Darwin's theory provided was the idea that humans and other primates shared a common ancestry, and that our species had evolved over time through a process of descent with modification. This helped to challenge traditional views about the origins of humanity, and provided a framework for understanding the diversity and complexity of human biology and behavior. Subsequent research in human evolution has confirmed and expanded upon many of Darwin's insights, revealing a wealth of evidence from fields such as paleontology, comparative anatomy, molecular biology, and genetics. Some of the key insights that Darwin's theory has helped to provide include: 1. The origins of bipedalism. Darwin's theory provided a framework for understanding the evolution of bipedalism, or walking on two legs, which is a defining characteristic of humans. Subsequent research has identified a number of anatomical and behavioral adaptations that help to facilitate bipedalism, such as changes in the shape and orientation of the pelvis, the development of a more flexible foot, and modifications to the vertebral column. 2. The origins of human intelligence. Darwin's theory helped to challenge traditional views about human exceptionalism, and provided a framework for understanding the evolution of human intelligence. Subsequent research has revealed a number of anatomical and cognitive adaptations that help to facilitate the development of human intelligence, such as changes in brain size and organization, the evolution of language and communication, and the development of social and cultural behaviors. 3. The origins of human diversity. Darwin's theory helped to establish the idea that humans are a diverse and dynamic species, subject to the same processes of natural selection and evolutionary change as other organisms. Subsequent research has revealed a wealth of evidence about the diversity of human biology and behavior, including differences in physical characteristics, disease susceptibility, and cultural practices. Overall, Darwin's theory of evolution has had a profound impact on our understanding of human evolution, and has helped to establish a rigorous and evidence-based approach to studying the origins of our species. It has provided a framework for understanding the diversity and complexity of human biology and behavior, and continues to inspire research and discovery in many different fields of study. How did Darwin's work on the origin of species pave the way for modern studies in biodiversity and conservation biology? Darwin's work on the origin of species laid the foundation for modern studies in biodiversity and conservation biology by providing a naturalistic explanation for the diversity and complexity of life on Earth, and highlighting the importance of understanding the ecological and evolutionary relationships between different species. One of the key insights that Darwin's theory provided was the idea that all living things are interconnected through a process of descent with modification, and that the diversity of life is the result of a process of natural selection acting on variations within and between species. This helped to establish the idea that all species have intrinsic value and deserve to be conserved, and provided a framework for understanding the ecological and evolutionary relationships between different species. Subsequent research in biodiversity and conservation biology has built upon and expanded upon Darwin's insights, and has revealed a wealth of evidence about the importance of protecting and preserving biodiversity for the health and well-being of ecosystems and human societies. Some of the key ways in which Darwin's work has influenced modern studies in biodiversity and conservation biology include: 1. Conservation genetics. Darwin's insights into the importance of variation and inheritance have helped to establish the field of conservation genetics, which seeks to understand the genetic diversity and structure of different species, and to use this information to develop effective strategies for conservation and management. 2. Biogeography. Darwin's observations about the distribution of species in different parts of the world have helped to establish the field of biogeography, which seeks to understand the historical and ecological factors that influence the distribution and diversity of different species. 3. Ecological relationships. Darwin's insights into the ecological relationships between different species have helped to establish the field of community ecology, which seeks to understand the complex interactions between different species within ecosystems, and the importance of these relationships for the health and functioning of ecosystems. Overall, Darwin's work on the origin of species paved the way for modern studies in biodiversity and conservation biology by providing a naturalistic explanation for the diversity and complexity of life on Earth, and highlighting the importance of understanding the ecological and evolutionary relationships between different species. It continues to inspire research and discovery in these fields today, and has helped to establish a more holistic and integrated approach to studying and conserving the natural world. Some text goes here. What are some common misconceptions or misunderstandings about Darwin's theory of evolution, and how can we address them? Some text goes here. There are several common misconceptions and misunderstandings about Darwin's theory of evolution that persist today, despite the overwhelming scientific evidence in support of the theory. Some of these misconceptions include: 1. Survival of the fittest means only the strongest survive. This is a common misunderstanding of the phrase survival of the fittest, which actually refers to the ability of organisms to survive and reproduce in a given environment, not just physical strength. It's important to emphasize that evolutionary fitness is a complex concept that depends on a range of factors, including genetic variation, reproductive success, and environmental conditions. 2. Evolution is just a theory. This is a common misunderstanding of the scientific meaning of the word theory, which refers to a well-supported explanation for a broad range of observations and data. The theory of evolution is one of the most well-established and widely supported scientific theories in history, supported by a vast amount of evidence from many different fields of study. 3. Evolution is just random chance. This is a common misunderstanding of the role of natural selection in evolution. which is a non-random process that favors traits that enhance an organism's ability to survive and reproduce. While mutations and genetic variation are random, the process of natural selection acts on these variations to produce adaptations that are well suited to a particular environment. 4. Evolution is a linear process. This is a common misunderstanding of the complexity and diversity of evolutionary history, which involves branching lineages, convergent evolution, and other complex patterns. It's important to emphasize that evolution is a complex and dynamic process that has produced a vast array of organisms with diverse forms and functions. To address these and other common misconceptions about evolution, it's important to provide accurate and accessible information about the theory, and to emphasize the wealth of scientific evidence that supports it. This can include using clear and accessible language to explain key concepts, providing examples of evolutionary processes in action, and highlighting the diverse range of scientific fields that contribute to our understanding of evolution. It can also involve engaging in respectful and constructive dialogue with those who may hold misconceptions or misunderstandings, and providing opportunities for open discussion and learning.